I love how tonight's episode of NXT just started off with an instant banger of a match. It was for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, Trick Williams versus Josh Briggs. And you know what I realized is how insanely cool Josh Briggs is if you just give him an opportunity. Like, the dude is booked ass consistently, but then when he gets an opportunity like this to show off, I actually really buy into him. I mean, this match was fantastic. I really bought into Josh Briggs. I wanted him to win. I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I still wanted him to win. On the other hand, I think they mentioned on commentary, the TNA World Championship has been defended more on NXT this year than it has been defended in general on TNA. Or maybe I'm wrong, but if I'm wrong, it's like a difference of 1 or 2 matches. So, like, that's kind of crazy. What are we doing, TNA? Like, this can't be all NXT's decision, right? Because you still have to book your own shows. You still have somewhat of a play in that. That's just crazy that the TNA World Championship has been defended more on NXT than in TNA. That's insane. But anyway, like I mentioned, Trick Williams retains the championship in a really amazing match. Really go check it out. And then after the match, Joe Henry's music plays, but Joe Henry doesn't come up to the stage. He's behind Trick Williams and he just dismantles Trick Williams, sends him out of the ring and stands tall. It's announced to us that Trick Williams will be defending the World Championship at Slammiversary against Joe Henry, and I don't think Joe Henry's gonna win. But hell, I don't know what we're doing with Joe Henry anymore. He's not booked well on TNA. He kind of starts being an afterthought here in NXT. It's like his hype has finally died down. He's still good. I just don't see where he goes next, if you get that. But later on during the night, Trick Williams is backstage when Wes Lee comes up, and Wes Lee wants to help Trick Williams out. So he says he's made a match for himself versus Joe Henry next week, and Trick Williams says if they can dismantle Joe Henry before his match, he'll owe them. So I really like this allegiance between Trick Williams and Wes Lee. They kind of have a mutual history involving Mello, and I just think it's cool to see them actually being on the same page. I think it's a very good position for Wes Lee to be in, because this is the most interested I've been in him since his heel turn after everything that happened with the Rascal. So it's a pretty good position for him to be in. We are backstage then with the NQCC, Charlie Dempsey, Tavon Heights and Ren Sinclair. Tavon Heights basically accuses Charlie Dempsey of purposefully hurting him during their training so that he loses his match tonight. But Charlie Dempsey says no, he didn't do it. And if Tavon Heights, well, he didn't do it purposefully. And if Tavon Heights wants to sit out tonight, Charlie Dempsey will take his spot. Tavon Heights is certain though that he will face Javon Evans tonight. Miles Bourne is talking to 2 Florida Gator football players when Lexus King interrupts him, and Miles simply ignores him, and the Gator guys are like, hey, this dude's deaf, and then Miles like, no, I'm just purposefully ignoring Lexus King, which was really cool. The two have an argument then, and basically it looks like we're gonna have a feud between the two of these guys, which I think is perfect. For Miles Turner's first singles feud outside of the NQCC, I think Lexus King is the perfect guy for that, because you just like seeing Lexus King have his ass whooped, and that's exactly what we need to show Miles Bourne doing, whooping ass. But since we talked about Tavon Heights, up next is his match against Javon Evans. Now I know we discussed this earlier, but I thought after last week that it was going to be Charlie Dempsey versus Javon Evans. Now I may absolutely be completely wrong here, and I probably am, but I was under the assumption that it was going to be Charlie Dempsey facing Javon Evans for Tavon Heights' freedom. But no, Tavon Heights is doing it himself, which makes a lot more sense. Now, Tavon Heights is really good in the ring. I really love Tavon Heights. His mask is kind of awful though. Like, it doesn't look cool. It kind of, yeah, it sucks. His mask sucks. But on the other hand, he loses the match. Well, I guess, I don't know why I made that sound like a good thing. Tavon Heights lost the match. He's really good though. Javon Evans wins, and this means Tavon Heights is still in the NQCC. And I'm totally fine with this result. I think there's a lot more drama with Tavon Heights having to stay in the NQCC while wanting to be out than him just simply leaving. I don't think there's enough spot on the roster for more singles guys, especially if like Miles Bourne needs to rise up the ranks. Jasper Troy, we're going to talk about him in a bit. So I think Tavon Heights having to stay in the NQCC and sort of like be a begrudgingly member there, I think there's a lot more storytelling opportunity there. And when it comes to Javon Evans, he gets laid out after the match by Jasper Troy, who I really like. Now, I want to talk more about Jasper Troy in a bit, so I'm saving whatever I want to say about him for an upcoming segment, but just know he attacked Javon Evans now. Keep that in mind for later. We have a short Dark State promo where they say they have something big planned, and I don't know where they're leading. Like, I have hope for this faction, but it feels like their dominance is kind of ended. Like, when they first debuted and they attacked Oba Femi, Trick Williams, the family, it seemed like they had this massive impact all over the show, and I don't see what possibly they could do next if it's not going after that NXT Championship, if it's not causing massive invasion problems on TNA. I don't see them having that much of an impact, but I'm hopeful because I like everyone involved and I want to see this faction succeed. Then up next, NXT Champion Oba Femi makes his way down to the ring. He says since the beginning of the year, he's been your champion and he has put down anyone that wants to come his way, whether that be someone on NXT, TNA, or even the main roster. Nobody can defeat him, which is when Yoshiki Inamura comes out. And I like Inamura, I think he's pretty cool, but he needs to work on his promo. And I don't care if your English is bad, that's not a big problem to me, it doesn't bother me at all. But you have to be somewhat convincing, and he kind of felt very monotone at the start. At least he did get some emotion near the end, but it didn't feel very convincing to me. He says that he kind of came to NXT seeking glory, but when he didn't find that, he returned to Japan. But then he realized he missed NXT, he missed Josh Briggs, and he missed the culture here, and that's why he came back. And now he wants to win the NXT Championship, and Oba Femi just simply tells him that's not gonna happen. And to be fair, it's definitely not. Oba Femi is not losing to Inamura. But a big compliment I will say for what they've done with at least Oba Femi's reign post Stand and Deliver is all of his challengers have been very unique and entertaining. It started off with Miles Bourne, which made Miles Bourne look like a star. Then we had the debuting Jasper Troy, who also looked very good. And now it's going to be Inamura. So it's three very unique challengers who you probably know isn't going to defeat Oba Femi. But it's been really good because it's given a lot of opportunity to guys. It's also made Oba Femi look very strong, and it's just been very entertaining television. So I've really liked what they've been doing with Oba Femi's reign. I wish they've done that from the start. But yeah, they just had to tease us with a Trick Williams feud and then never pull through with it. But as Yoshiki goes to leave, he is ambushed by Jasper Troy, and it's later announced that Jasper Troy vs Inamura will happen next week in a #1 contendership match. Now here's what's likely gonna happen. I want to see Jasper Troy win. I'm very high on Jasper Troy. I want to see him win. He's not. Javon Evans is most likely going to cost him the match, and Inamura is going to go on to face Oba Femi and then lose to Oba Femi. But that doesn't matter. I think it's going to be a really good match. I've yet to really buy into Inamura. I think he's cool, but my favorite part about his team with Briggs is more supporting Briggs than supporting Inamura. But I'm hoping that a feud with Oba Femi can actually unlock him for me and make me actually interested in everything he does, similarly to what it has with Jasper Troy and Miles Bourne. I don't know how many times I've done this in this video today, but I've just realized that I've probably been saying Miles Turner a lot instead of Miles Bourne. God damn, these NBA finals have me messed up. But okay. So backstage, Izzy Dame is approaching Tatum Paxley and gives her a new doll and says that she wants Tatum Paxley to be in her corner for tonight's main event. Zaruka then approached him and tells Tatum to just not do it because it's not going to be good for her. But Tatum doesn't listen to them and she supports Izzy Dame. She goes to the culling and Izzy Dame is very happy about this. We have two matches then. Ricky Saints picks up a victory over Ashante the Adonis. Pretty nice match, nothing too spectacular. But I really like Ricky Saints. I wish we still kept the thing with his neck being hurt. I think there was a lot more potential there to continue going with it. But now that he's fully healthy, I'm happy to see... God damn, I'm happy to see a feud with him and Ethan Page. Ethan Page does attack him after the ring and stands tall. And as interesting as his reign has been, I do think Ricky Saints is going to be taking it back very soon. Now later on backstage, Ava approaches Ethan Page, tells him he can't just go attacking Ricky Saints anymore, and that next week they will have to have a face-to-face to make this match official. And Ethan Page gets on the phone and calls the Vanity Project. So is Ethan Page like an honorary member of the Vanity Project? Because that would be pretty cool. I can see him fitting in very well with them. And I really do hope we get the Evolve champion on the show next week. And then the next match is for the Heritage Cup. So unfortunately, Noam Dar got injured and had to relinquish the cup. And that really sucks for him because he just came back and won that. So, and I don't want to say it, but I do believe Noam Dar is going to be released as soon as he's healthy again. Because the guy gets injured a lot and he's already on a disadvantage because I just don't see him fitting in with the main roster. So I don't know. Yeah, I have a bad feeling that his time in WWE isn't going to be long. But let's talk about the match. So the one to replace him was Tony D'Angelo. So now we had Tony D'Angelo versus Stax for the Heritage Cup. You all know I don't enjoy the rounds matches. It's just not for me, but the match was still pretty fine. So near the end, it was 1 point for each man. And then Luca Crucifino accidentally hit Tony D'Angelo and helped Stax win the Heritage Cup, which is pretty good for Stax. I've said that Stax is the bright spot of this feud for me. I've enjoyed him the most and I'm excited to see him have a singles run. And I'm also intrigued of what we're doing with Luca Crucifino because it seems like he's very clearly on Tony D'Angelo's side. That's what it seems like. And Tony D'Angelo attacked him after the match and said he's done with everything. Now, as curious as I am to see what happens next, I just want this feud to end. They've absolutely butchered it. I was so excited to see what this family civil war looks like, but it hasn't worked out. It really hasn't. Like I said, at this point, just let Stax do his own thing. Send Luca down to Evolve. He did a pretty good job there. And then bring Tony D'Angelo to the main roster. That's the best thing you can do. Just wipe the slate clean with all of this. Let's just forget about it. Then in the main event, we have the number 1 contendership fatal 4-way match, Jada Parker versus Izzy Dame, who is supported by Tatum Paxley, versus Lash Legend versus Jordynne Grace. Now, before we get into what happened at the end, during the match, Soul Rook and Zarya just came and kidnapped Tatum Paxley. They just took her from ringside and walked away with her, leaving Izzy Dame alone. I really like that. Like I said, this whole thing with Tatum Paxley has been some of the best stuff on NXT recently. Now, back to the match. Man, I love Jada Parker. She's so good. Now, she didn't win, but during this match, I just felt like I wanted her to win so bad. Even though I knew Jordynne Grace was going to win, and I said last week that Jordynne Grace was going to win, I still was hoping, like, just pull a swerve. Just let Jada Parker win. So no, Jordynne Grace does win the number 1 contendership match, and she's going to Evolution to challenge for JC Jane's NXT Women's Championship. Now, previously, I said that Jordynne Grace is probably going to lose, and then Blake Monroe is going to take that championship from Jordynne Grace. My mind has changed a bit. I'm thinking that what I want to happen is Jordynne Grace wins that NXT Women's Championship. Then for Blake Monroe's first feud in NXT, she can still face JC Jane and beat up JC Jane. And then afterwards, she can go after Jordynne Grace and have that big ass match. And then after that, you can have the implosion of Fatal Influence, because there has been that tension between Fallon Henley and JC Jane. I think that's the route that should be going. I think that's the route that is very likely to go. Then you get Jordynne Grace to have that championship reign and have a nice championship reign before you send her to the main roster, and Blake Monroe takes that championship from her, which Blake Monroe can then have her own little reign before going to the main roster herself. And then you also get the implosion of Fatal Influence, which has been teased a lot recently. I think it just works out best, and that's what I'm predicting is going to happen. But overall, if I had to give the night show a rating, it would be a solid 10 out of 10. I enjoyed everything that happened. Maybe the show wasn't perfect, but to me, I enjoyed the entire show. I sat there and enjoyed the entire show, and that's all it takes for me to give it a 10 out of 10. So that's what it is. Once again, the women stood out the most. The women's storylines and matches were the best, although we didn't have Blake Monroe, which kind of sucked. But outside of that, I'm really loving how the men's division is being built. Like, Briggs and Inamora are slowly rising the ranks. Stacks just won the championship. Jasper Troy is seemingly starting to be a big deal. Miles Bourne and Tavon are destined for greatness. So I feel like everything on tonight's show was just really entertaining. So yeah, if you like the video, leave a like, subscribe. I cover NXT and TNA weekly, including sometimes AEW main roster stuff, but not consistently because I don't watch those stuff consistently. But yeah, let me know what you think. Leave a like, subscribe. I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye, everyone.